On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, we are joined by a wonderful guest from Pretty Hard Cases on CBC, formerly the Beaverton, and of being a big Raptors fan since the beginning of the franchise, it is Miguel Rivas. Super thrilled to have him today. We're going to talk about acting across from Nick Nurse, among many other things, on today's episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks so much for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode number 1324 of Locked On Raptors for Thursday, January the 19th. I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 9 seasons on various platforms. You can find all of my work over on Twitter at WoodleySean. You can follow, subscribe to, rate, and review the podcast for free on your favorite audio podcast apps, of course. And we are on YouTube. If you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're doing me a big favor. And really, well, what other reason is there to do it other than doing me a favor? It's a free podcast. Okay, we don't ask for much. Also, if you go and subscribe to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel for free, you can win yourself some free stuff. You're gonna be in the green. It's unbelievable. All you got to do to win 2 tickets to the February 7th Raptors Republic live podcast event at the Rivoli in Toronto is send an email to lockedonraptors@gmail.com. In said email, include a screenshot that proves you are in fact subscribed to the YouTube channel and a little note about your favorite deep cut Raptor of all time. And if you do that, you'll be put into a draw to win 2 tickets to the live podcast event at the Rivoli February 7th. It's going to be a blast. Please go do that. A couple people have already gotten their submissions in. I'll be pulling the winner on Tuesday's podcast, so get your submissions in over the weekend, please. All right, let's get to it on today's show. Really excited for today's guest. The guest's so nice, he's joined me twice because the technology was not working so hot this morning. We've got it back on track today in the afternoon. Sorry for the later episode drop time than usual, but that's okay because this one's evergreen. Who cares if there's a game later tonight? It's Miguel Rivas. Miguel, how's it going?
Good. We were just building anticipation, you know?
Yeah, it was a trial run podcast.
The biggest episode ever, 1324. People have been counting down the seconds and the minutes until this episode was going to drop.
That's what I've been telling myself all week long, preparing myself for this one. I'm glad now I get a second shot at it to not screw up. So, Miguel,
yes,
we're going to dig into all sorts of stuff today. You, of course, are on Pretty Hard Cases on CBC, which you should go and watch. All the CBC comedy stuff. Really, the last couple of years have been fantastic. Lots of really wonderful programming from our lovely national broadcaster. You are on Pretty Hard Cases. Nick Nurse was on Pretty Hard Cases. We're going to talk about that. And having already heard your interactions with him on the first episode that we recorded that is lost to history, I'm very excited to dive back into that with you. We're also going to play that Random Raptors Game, which is my favorite game to play with new guests, where we test your knowledge of very deep cut Toronto Raptors. But before we do all that, we should talk, Miguel, about the team as it stands right now. 20-25. The rumors are flying all over the place. Everyone wants to trade somebody, it seems. In some cases, they just want to send players on rocket ships to the moon and get nothing back, and that'll be a win for them. It's been a weird time. You are a season ticket holder. You share season tickets, as you told me offline, with our pal Freddie Rivas, your brother, of course, regular guest of the podcast. And you've been a fan since day one of the franchise. It's been a strange season, but as someone who has been through seasons that were objectively much worse than this one, I'm kind of curious how you're processing all of it. It's been weird. They've been very good for the better part of a decade. The Tampa season had plenty of excuses built in. This one, kind of different, I think, in tone and tenor as bad seasons go. How have you been, digesting it and sort of relating to the team this season in a year where it's been very, very bizarre?
If I'm trying to use my rose-colored glasses and look for silver lining, it's nice that we have high expectations at the least. Now we expect to win after the last decade, and we don't accept, hey, maybe we'll sneak into 8th, or now in modern times sneak into the play-in. Mm-hmm. That's not enough. We want to be good. There's just been so many dark times in the Raptors' past that I'm sad to say I am used to losing seasons, but this one does feel different because it's not like we're rolling out Joey Graham.
Yeah,
we have players that we know for a fact are good.
Yeah,
and so seeing them underperform is difficult. And I think the Dwayne Casey era if it brought nothing else, it brought a certain, let's call it the Dwayne Casey, DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry era, brought a level of fight that we expect.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm really disappointed in anything this season, let's say many things, but one major thing is some nights it feels like the compete level isn't there. And that's the thing that feels a bit ugly, you know? But I'm coping by doing what I always do, which is watch every game, no matter how nightmarishly bad it becomes.
I mean, hey, it's the winter time. There's worse things to do than watch the local basketball team play, even if they're going to lose. And hey, they have their own little fun quirks, like fake comebacks and all of that. Are you a fake comeback appreciator? I find myself every time I know that they're about to dig into a 15-point deficit that is going to end up being a 9-point deficit by the time the buzzer goes. But I know we're in for a treat whenever those fake comebacks are kind of burgeoning. Are you, like me, a fake comeback sicko?
Yeah, I love whenever the Raptors do a fake comeback, because there's an inside joke between me and my wife, who is an equally large Raptors fan, which makes for a happy marriage, by the way, would recommend. We love when Devlin, it's from the Tampa season, but it's happening again this season. Devlin would always say, "And the Raptors have cut it to 8," with wild enthusiasm. So whenever the Raptors cut it to 8, we both look at each other like, we say, "The Raptors have cut it to 8," as if that's like taking the lead,
Yeah. I feel like that, he's gotten more sort of liberal with at which point he will show excitement with whatever the deficit's been cut to. It's like, it's a 17-point game, Jack. I feel like we've gotten that one,
Jack,
quite a bit.
Stranger things have happened.
This is the NBA in 2023. 18-point leads with 4 minutes left are never safe. Yeah. Respect to Matt Devlin forever for him keeping the dream alive.
He's morphed into quite the homer, hasn't he?
And we love it. That's why people who don't want their local broadcasters to be homers, what kind of sick freak are you? You want down the middle coverage of the team you watch every day? Could not be me. Yeah, I love Iron Eagle and all, but come on.
Yeah. We're not going all Tommy Heinsohn on it or anything.
Yeah, light homerism and jingles is kind of the I think the sort of motto of the Raptors broadcast these days. I got to ask you, Miguel, the deadline is, all anyone can talk about these days, and everyone seems to have their guy they think should be the one that gets traded. I'm curious for you, are you in the mind of something's got to happen here? Even someone who is team run it back always, someone who is team, patience is cool. You don't got to blow a thing up just because you're not getting instant gratification. There's still potential gratification down the line. And this Raptors team does have a capacity for internal growth still, even though it's been perhaps delayed and maybe not to the degree you would have hoped it would be. I still think there's a lot to like here if you just give it more time. That said, the nature of the recent losses, the just sort of the vitriol that seems to be kind of flying around towards all sorts of members of the Raptors, and maybe even within the team. Who's to say? Shouts to CJ McCollum for sowing discord.
Yeah. And
mind
you're
the business,
the president
dude.
of the Players Association? My God, how dare you? How dare you? That's tampering.
It absolutely, I think, is at least borderline tampering. Anyway, but the sort of question I'm taking way too long to get into is here, who should they trade, Miguel? Should they trade anybody? What's your sort of dream deadline outcome here for the Raptors?
The vibes are off. There's something wrong in the court, and meaning in the royal court. And I think we all get attached too emotionally to a lot of players, like I was saying before offline. DeMar DeRozan is probably my favorite Raptor of all time, just because of his attitude and our Toronto vibe of please like us, not even just within basketball, but in general.
Please sign more than one contract with us, please.
Please, we beg of you, like us. We're a world-class city. He took on the challenge and he did it, and we took him to the mountain and sacrificed him to God, and we got a championship in return. And I don't know who's going to look back and say that was a mistake. That was amazing. So you have to remember the NBA player pool is so small. Every team has 8 players in a rotation, maybe 10. They have 12 guys dressed. They have 17 on the roster. It's a small group of players. Players are going to move around. That's just how it works. We have to kind of accept that. And I don't want to abandon anything that's not working or not give things a chance. But this core has been together for a minute now. They've had a swing at it. And the league has trended, maybe the trend's going to change, but it's trended so offensively now. And what I see this season is a team that just, even on their best day, don't seem to be able to pack an enormous offensive punch. And as the sooner we embrace that reality, the better our long-term prospects will be. I think the future is bright. And, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to pillory myself, set myself up for some bad emails. I hate to say this because he's my favorite current Raptor, but I think we should trade OG and Anunoby.
Ooh!
Kill me now.
For those listening, that was my attempt at bombs. They're very bad bombs, as it turns out.
At Miguel Rivas, come at me with the hate tweets. I'm ready. I love OG more than anybody, but think of the value you could get for him. Think of what we could do. OG is the best. I don't want to trade him, but I have the Raptors' long-term prospects in mind. And what's going on? Nothing is a huge problem, but the whole chemistry is a problem. So, I think trading OG for another guard is probably the wise thing to do. I don't know. I don't have the real answers, but something has to change. Something has to give here, right?
Yeah, the OG thing is fascinating. I want to pick up that thread in just a second here and sort of dive into a little bit more of the reasons why it might be actually the thing to do, which is not a thing I would have said even a month ago, but maybe my brain is evolving as one's brain does. We will get into that in just one sec. Before we do that, however, I want to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar, who make the best tasting protein bars money can buy. They are delicious, of course. They have all sorts of flavors, of course, and they are healthy, of course. 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein in your standard Built Bar. It's a great way to replace a meal in the morning. If you're on the go, you got to have something in the afternoon to get you through the afternoon sleepies, whatever it might be. Built Bar is the way to do it. Again, all sorts of amazing flavors. They have classics like peanut butter brownie, which still holds up as maybe my favorite of all time. You've got churro, coconut almond. They also have puffs and granola bars, all sorts of different types and takes on the Built Bar, all of which are delicious, all of which are packed with protein, all of which make it feel as though you're being indulgent when you're not actually being indulgent. It's a great way to wean yourself off of holiday candy addiction, which I am still deep in the throes of, but Built Bars are helping me see the other side. Go right now to your local Walmart and pick up yourself a box of your favorite flavor. All sorts of flavors available. And again, they are at Walmart. Go get yourself some Built Bars. All right, let's continue on here. Miguel Rivas of Pretty Hard Cases here, digging into a pretty hard case for the Raptors, one might say, which is figuring out what to do before the deadline. And just to kind of pick up on the OG thread from before, the gigantic bomb you just dropped, I too am coming around on the idea that might be the move. And it's not because I don't think OG's awesome. It's not because I think trading OG is even the right idea. And, it could very easily blow up in their faces. And for the next 15 years, the Raptors are sitting there with an OG-sized hole at small forward wondering, man, why do we ever get rid of a guy who was the answer at that position for so long that every team needs? It's hard, but I think Scotty Barnes obviously is untouchable. Dude rocks. I think Pascal Siakam should be untouchable. In fact, I think those two guys together, maybe of any duo of players on the team, I kind of think they have the most simpatico on the floor. As much as their skills overlap, I think they seem to get it with one another in like a pretty impressive way. And I really like the idea of allowing those two creative, big, bruising wing forward types with very different skill sets, but also similar ones to kind of be the heads of the snake going forward. I thought OG should have been part of that. And I still think you could totally go forward with OG and be totally happy. But as far as reassembling the roster around Scotty and Pascal, I do wonder if maybe OG is the guy that's going to get you the most to reassemble the roster with. And if you can get these contenders who are an OG in theory away from winning a title to pony up and get into a bidding war before the deadline, maybe that's the move. Maybe you look back in 18 months when OG Anunoby's making $35 million a year and thinking, man, it was a good idea that we sold when we could. It's such a gross way to talk about it, Miguel. I hate it. I love OG. I love everything he's about. He's clearly the funniest and smartest guy on the team. The way he very clearly plays the media game by not playing the media game at all. One of my favorite things in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
But maybe, just maybe, it's the move. It's... I don't even know. It wouldn't be quite on the level of trading DeMar because DeMar was everything. But as far as like difficult to stomach moves, it might be number 2 in Raptors history if it does actually happen.
You want to trade him because we like him, because he's so good. There's a lot of noise right now, but because Fred's having such a down season shooting, they're like, let's trade Fred. But I guarantee you there's just not the market for Fred that there is for OG out there. OG is an ideal player for literally all 30 teams in the NBA. Mm-hmm. You can plug him into any team and he will be effective just based on his defense alone, even if you reduce his offensive role enormously. And hey, if he was shooting, his career average from 3, it would be a different story. But there's just like a different usage style we're trying to get out of him that is just not working. And it's hard to imagine a championship team that has Fred, Scotty, and Pascal on it because the shooting is not there. It could get there. All those players were deemed terrible shooters, and they kind of, at least Pascal and OG, have risen to seasons where they have an acceptable 3-point shooting percentage. But it just feels like it's an embarrassment of riches at the same position. And I know that was Vision 6-9, but it was an experiment to see how far it could go. And I think with every team having, genius mathematicians breaking down every other team's approach, Vision 6-9 may have run its course a little bit. And out of those 3 guys, who would you trade? It's got to be OG. Like Scotty, it's hard to predict Scotty's ceiling, right? Scotty could still become, he passes like Jokic on some nights. And Pascal,
I'm still thinking about that pass he threw against the Knicks in overtime to OG in the corner, like 3 days later. It was insane. It speaks to what a visionary passer that dude is.
Or even just pulling off that pass to Pascal, cutting into the paint, was like, that's a really hard pass to pull off on a team that's as engaged as the Knicks were on that night. And so, that's hard to find. And Pascal, at the scoring level he is capable of and consistently capable of, you're not replicating that with ease. Scotty is not even going to be able to ever do that. Finding another player to be like, oh, I can get you 25 a night effectively, that's irreplaceable to me. Again, OG's defense is pretty irreplaceable, but I do not like saying this, but something has to change. I'm pointing at OG.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough one. I know. Look, crying into your hands is the correct response. He's the scarfs man. He's the guy who hit the buzzer beater against the Celtics. It's not an easy thing to reckon with.
And he's legitimately hilarious.
Legitimately hilarious and legitimately awesome. The type of player who rightfully has the entire league lining up to try to trade for him, which is maybe indication number 1 that you shouldn't trade him. But at the same time, I'm growing more open to the idea, even if it makes me want to barf. Speaking of hard cases, for the second time, I'm going to use this transition. We're going to talk in just a second about Nick Nurse, his acting chops, his time on Pretty Hard Cases next to Miguel. Miguel's green room discussions with Nick Nurse. Is Miguel the reason the Raptors play this defense? Or is his schemes that Nick Nurse has adopted here? Maybe. We'll tell you that on the other side. Plus, that Random Raptors game, everybody's favorite, the most challenging game in the whole wide world, some have said. We'll get to that in just one sec. However, before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends over at betonline.net, your number 1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. You've got pro football, the playoffs, tons of fun, as it said. I mean, I'm not watching, but it sounds like it's fun. You've also got the NBA season ongoing, the NHL season, the European soccer leagues have kicked back up after the World Cup. Maybe you got that footy fever, baby. You can go and put money down in your favorite soccer teams. And BetOnline is going to make it so you put money down in the places you should put down in order to win. They are going to make you the informed wagerer with all sorts of podcasts, analysis, injury news, everything you might need before you put your hard-earned money down. BetOnline is going to give you the guidance as to why why the lines are set the way they are and what the best bets might be. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online is where the game starts. And we conclude our chat here with Miguel Rivas of Pretty Hard Cases, formerly the Beaverton as well, on the show here. And we'll play that Random Raptors game in a second. But, of course, Season 3 of Pretty Hard Cases premiered early January. And Nick Nurse made himself an appearance. Miguel, as a big Raptors fan, I'm sure this was very thrilling for you. Curious thoughts on Nick Nurse's acting chops. And more interestingly to me, you're on set for a very long time when you're filming a TV show. I would imagine there was at least some time where you got to talk to Nick Nurse about the Raptors or whatever. Curious to sort of know your experience working across Nick Nurse on the set of Pretty Hard Cases and the level of acting chops that he brings to the table.
Well, as an actor, I do like randomly see sort of celebrities, and I feel like I play it cool. But every time I've ever met anyone affiliated with the NBA, who's a part of the NBA, it's hard not to fanboy and reveal my true childlike self. And with Nick Nurse, when I found out he was going to be on the show, which was only 2 days before I was on set with him, I told myself I would play it cool and I would only talk a little bit of basketball. But as soon as I started speaking with him, I realized that the only thing he wanted to speak about was basketball. And it just so happened that I was the biggest fan in the cast and the crew on Pretty Hard Cases. And he picked up on that immediately. And just we were together for like 8 hours, a good 8 hours going in and off of set to the green room. And we just talked ball pretty much the entire time.
Amazing.
I started off by like talking about Team Canada and asking him about going to Victoria and like just things that weren't typical questions. Like people were coming up being like, what's it like to win a ring? But I wanted to be like,
yeah, you're cool. You got the hipster
like,
questions. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Do they have adequate basketball venues in British Columbia? What do you think? Like just like deep stuff. We actually bonded enough that at the end of the day, he left me a present in my trailer, which was two like little bracelets from his charity that were like,
oh, cool.
And a little personalized note that was like fun talking ball all day. So I'm not sure he would actually remember my name, but I'm pretty sure he would remember my face.
That's incredible. Did you pick his brain as to why he refuses to change the defensive scheme despite clearly the personnel not having the juice for it?
I did ask him like if he. I was like I did ask him. I did ask him about his relationship with Masai. I was like,
right.
How much input do you have in this Vision 6-9 thing and this every player is the same thing? And he was very much like, we are synced up on it. This is the way to go. We believe in this. He was saying something about 90%. He kept throwing out 90%. He wants 90% of the roster to be completely switchable. He has like a history of being an extremely creative coach. And he wanted to get that across to me that like that was what they wanted to do. They wanted to stand out as not any other team, even though the championship team was built sort of very historically
as classically as you could possibly imagine. Point guard,
exactly.
Shooting guard who has low usage, star wing player, power forward, typical center. Yep. Why fix what ain't broke? No, let's do it anyway. Yeah.
And so I did kind of talk about that. He kept talking about himself as an offensive-minded coach. So what he really likes about this roster is the like focus and expansion on defense that he got to lean on. And maybe that's why the offense has struggled so hard this year, because they're focused on defense. But I don't know what he would say now that the defense is also sort of crumbling before our very eyes every single game. But yeah, he told me, I'll spill one little can of beans for everybody just because I had the chance to hang out with him, which was that I asked about Team Canada, and he said he held everyone up to this ultimatum in this meeting before their last tournament, where he like sat them down and said, if you're not committed, I don't care who you are, I'll kick you off of this team. I want you to stand up and pledge allegiance to Team Canada. Because this is no joke to me. And he got everyone to do it. So he referenced the idea that most people were not actually actively committed to the team. They were kind of like reluctantly, eye-rollingly being a part of it. And he talked about this great era of Canadian basketball coming up and how you could like be every kid's favorite player for a lifetime if you just commit to trying your hardest for your country. And he did, and he got all these players to make 3 to 5 year commitments to the team. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how much future free agent Raptors tampering goes into that as well. The people in Canada will love you, and they'll love you even more if you come play for my basketball team.
I think
awesome
tampering is a
stuff.
gray area, not a black and white era.
I think it should just be allowed, frankly. Like the teams that are good at it, that should be a competitive advantage. If you can, tamper through national team play, that seems like an edge to me that you should be trying to mine. Awesome stuff to hear about old acting Nick Nurse, who, perhaps if things don't work out so well with this here Raptors thing, will become a series regular on Pretty Hard Cases, or
it's his
the
third
new
Canadian
Murdoch
television
Mysteries
show.
guy. Yeah. Fun fact, this window here, you see behind me, if you're watching on video, out back is my alley behind my house where I park. And one time, Murdoch Mysteries used our parking space for a horse and buggy because they were filming in the park right behind our house. Fun Canadian television nugget. That's the closest I've ever gotten to being on a CBC show. So basically, we're the same, Miguel.
I hope you fleeced them for a driveway rental. Ask for $10,000.
We didn't, and we're fools for not doing it. But also, can Murdoch Mysteries afford to have most of its budget be for Sean's parking space? Maybe not.
Well, they're in season 17 or 1700, so they must have some kind of bankroll, right?
Look, if the Republic of Doyle people want to pay me, I'll accept that money. Let's close this out, Miguel, with, as promised, that Random Raptors game, a game in which we go back to an old Raptors game, and you, the guest, have to guess who played in the game for the Toronto Raptors. I will give you the edge here, Miguel. I will let you choose the season from which this game comes. Any season in Raptors history, maybe not the last 3 because that'll be easy, but any season in Raptors history, name the season, and you can even name the opponent, and I will pull up a box score against that opponent from that season, and you will guess who played in that game.
So now you're giving me my own shovel to bury myself with.
Exactly. I've never done it this way before, but I kind of like it. It's a little bit of a fun, sicko twist.
Okay, let's go with 2010.
All right, the 09-10 season or 2010-11, to be clear.
Let's make it difficult and go with 10-11. Let's go
okay.
with 10-11.
The season where I went to a game in the first week of this season, and it broke me as a Raptors fan for at least 3 years. I was in Ottawa. I came home for the home opener, or the second game of the season against the Cavs without LeBron, and it was, not to give anything away, but the Bosch-less Raptors, and that game was so sad and upsetting that I went back to Ottawa and didn't watch a Raptors game for at least 2 years, until the first Rudy Gay trade, which got me back into it, because I was weird. All right. And we need to now pick an opponent, and I will pick a game against said opponent from this season.
Well, let's use your personal history and go with that Cavs game.
Okay, we'll do that. We will go to the most depressing basketball game I've ever seen. Friday, October the 29th, 2010. Raptors, Cavaliers. First week of the season. The players appearing on the roster for the Cavs in this one include guys like Jamario Moon and Anthony Parker, along with Anton Jameson and Jawad Williams and J.J. Hickson and Ryan Hollins. Fun times. Joey Graham also on this team, so just like a who's who of sad former Raptors.
Wow.
But the Raptors, yeah, it's dark, man. The Raptors in this game played 12 men. A thing Nick Nurse will never do in his entire life. 12 players played for the Raptors in this game, a game in which they beat the Cavaliers 101-81, and the 20-point win was still not enough to save my basketball fandom. Name me the 12 players. You get 3 strikes. We'll go through.
Oh, I'm going to make it to I'm going to make it to 3 players. That's my
I believe in you, Miguel. Just think back. It's 2011, the fall of 2011. Everyone's favorite time to be a Raptors fan. Just start naming guys. I'll give you the stat line if you get it right, and then we can move on to the next guy as we go through. So just give me a guy.
We got a sophomore, DeMar DeRozan.
Correct. DeMar played in this game 27 minutes, 14 points, 6 of 13 from the field. Did not shoot a 3, but was a plus 18. We're right in the peak Young Guns era for old DeMar. Who else you got?
Okay. So that was a dead giveaway. Thanks for that. So then we
Hey,
also
I
had
like to
Amir
give context
Johnson.
clues. Yes, Amir comes off the bench in this game, a 4 of 4 from the field, 8 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, a block, a +3 in 20 minutes off the bench.
A classic Amir Johnson stat line there.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, then we got the third member of the Young Guns. We got Sonny Weems.
Hell yeah, we got Sonny Weems, 13 points off the bench, 5 of 10 shooting, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 4 turnovers for a -1. You're 3 for 3. You got 9 guys left, 3
-1.
strikes to work with. I think you can do this.
Oh my God, no! I'm already nervous and struggling. I'm already scared. Okay, is this already a big swing? Jarrett Jack.
Jarrett Jack started this game. Not a big swing at all. He was your starting point guard, of course, the guy who was going to convince Chris Bosh to stay because they played at the same school. I love GM logic. I miss when all the GMs were dumb. There are too many smart GMs now. I don't like it. Jarrett Jack in this game, 22 minutes played, 6 points, 1 of 5 shooting. Not much to write home about, but it was a +4. So you're 4 for 4 now.
6 points. 6 points is terrible.
Yeah, on 5 shots. A model of efficiency there, Jarrett Jack.
Okay, off the bench. In the other guard spot? Jared Bayless?
Jared Bayless was on this roster eventually, but not yet. They traded for him, I believe, later on in this season. So the guy they traded for him is on the roster. So there's a clue there.
Oh my God!
But you've got 1 strike, you've got 4 correct, and you've got. I should also say you have 3 starters left to guess, and the rest are bench guys.
Okay, so starting was Jarrett Jack and DeRozan, and you said Amir was off the bench, right?
Correct.
Okay. This is now I'm literally blanking already. This wasn't still. No, he would have been retired. Now I'm talking myself into a hole of fear. Okay. Oh my God, Rasho Nesterovic.
Sadly, this was not one of the years in which Rasho was around. He was around at 2 different occasions, but he was gone by this year. So it's your 2nd strike. No Rasho.
Wow. Okay. Was he long gone by 2010?
I think he was on the team the season prior. Yeah, he had again 2 stints with the team.
Okay,
that
so
I forget exactly when they took place.
Wow. Okay. So now, oh my God.
I love this game because it just engenders that response from everybody who plays. It's my favorite.
So why did I choose such a middling year where it was just going to be a bunch of bum players?
Yeah, I don't know. You made it as hard as you possibly could on yourself. Yeah,
I should have
chosen 3 starters remaining.
I should have chose a fun year. Wow, and I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. Who would have started at center? Wow. Okay. No, this is going to be wrong too. Garbajosa. I'm going Garbajosa. This was him lingering around.
Garbajosa was not on this team. He only had the 1.5 years with the Raptors before the knee thing took him out for good.
For some reason, thought he was hanging around, like just in the weight room for a couple of years before he was like, I can't play anymore. I'm 39 years old.
I mean, there were a couple guys who I would say apply as hanging around at this point on the team. You've gone through your 3 strikes. Would you like to keep guessing for fun? You've officially lost the game, but you can still get like pride points
early.
Yeah. You got 4 correct, 3 wrong. But we can run through, or you can keep guessing for pride if you'd like.
No, you know what? I'm throwing in the towel here. I'm going to be. Okay. I'm too embarrassed, and now I'm getting the stress sweats coming in. I'm nervous that if I take another guess, I'll embarrass myself further. Give me a hint on who started at center.
Rebounds. Only rebounds. Nothing else.
Not Biyombo.
No, Biyombo.
Reggie Evans.
Reggie Evans is correct. 27 minutes for him in this game. 2 points, 14 rebounds. The most Reggie Evans-ass stat line you'll ever see.
That's the most
he did that
ever going to be.
that entire year. In that starting five, like I don't blame you for not getting the starting front court for this team because it sucks. It's Reggie Evans, next to him, Andrea Bargnani, of course, who led the team in scoring with 20 points.
Still hanging around.
Easy to forget old Bargs. Although I think it was the year after this where he had his 13 games.
I think I've been actively trying to forget Bargs is why. So I've like clouded that part of my brain on purpose.
Yeah, and also in the vein of disappointing Europeans, Linus Kleza also started this game and scored 19 points. You're beginning to see why maybe this game affected the diehardness of my fandom. Were you at this game, by the way? Is there a chance you were at this game?
There's a chance, but I don't remember specifically because this feels like another one that I would have tried to forget. But let me guess one more bench. Let me guess one more extremely obscure bench player. Quincy Acey.
No Quincy Acey. He's a little later on. He's in the Rudy Gay trade, so he's a little later. But guys of Quincy Acey's ilk, for sure, you did miss Jose Calderon. He came off the bench in this game. 0 points on 0 of 5 shooting, but a plus 15. So that's fun.
And probably no turnovers.
2 turnovers. A wild stat line, yeah.
He was already toast.
Yeah. Other than him, Leandro Barbosa came off the bench in this game. 13 points, 5 of 10. The Blur. And then the last 3, I would have been stunned if you got them. David Anderson, Julian Wright, and Marcus Banks. Julian Wright being the one who was traded for Jared Bayless eventually, yeah. Julian Wright was one of those guys I remember from like March Madness thinking that guy's going to be amazing. And then, he was Julian Wright. Either way, we've reached the end of the game, Miguel.
Bargnani and the Blur. That's no good. That's bad. I had a bad run at the game. I'm embarrassed.
Look, if we're rating the performance here, certainly not among the best. You may be familiar with Alan Shane Lewis. I think you outperformed him. I think he did very poorly when he was on and played this game. So you're ahead of him. But otherwise, not exactly in the upper echelon of all time.
Well, I'm
that Random Raptors Game performances. Please do. Let's think. June 13th, 2019. Or something like that.
I bet I can name that entire roster.
Eric Moreland. You got Eric Moreland too. Jody Meeks. Don't forget them. They're NBA champions.
Jody Meeks is so essential to the locker room,
He was. Just tied it all together. Miguel, thank you so much for hanging, man. This has been an absolute blast to have you on the show. Please tell the people where they can find you and all the great stuff that you do.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mig Rivas. You can find me on TikTok at Mig Rivas, I guess. You can watch the ongoing season of Pretty Hard Cases on Wednesday nights on CBC and CBC Gem at 9 p.m. And it will eventually make its way to Netflix, I believe, but I don't know when. Season 1 and 2 are already up there. And you can actually hear me on CBC Radio doing some random fill-in DJ spots on the Afternoon Drive show.
Outstanding.
So listen for my silky smooth voice there.
It should be noted, the silky smoothness of your voice is like as bad as your performance at that Random Raptors game was. Your voice is good, so good. Congratulations on that, I suppose. We're gonna round it there. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, supporting the show, all that good stuff. Please follow, subscribe to, rate, review, all the good stuff we ask you to do to help support the show for free. We'll be back again on Monday. No Friday episode this week, just because of scheduling, and I'm away on a little woods vacation to get some brain time to me. Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate it. We'll be back Monday to break down. I guess they play like 1,000 games over the weekend, so we'll break those down. Yeah. And we'll probably have a bit of a clearer picture on what the whole plan is going to be here. Maybe they're 23 and 25 by the time we speak next, and everyone's very happy and looking at the 6th seed and circling the Knicks as the team they're going to track down. I doubt it, but we'll see. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go make your second listen of the day Locked On Leafs. Yeah, very unlikely. Go make your second listen of the day Locked On Leafs and support the boys over there, Mike and Dave, breaking down a team that is winning in Toronto sports, which is fun. So go do that and have yourself a wonderful weekend. And we'll talk Monday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Bye-bye.